Have you ever felt overwhelmed when things are getting too much for you? It starts off as something really small, and then over a period of time, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and becomes, if you like a mental monster. Well, if you do, this is what this video is basically about, and the way that I've found for me to overcome that and move on, leaving all my problems behind. They say that most of what we worry about never comes to pass. And I think you'll find that's true. So what I'm going to do is tell you about something that's happened to me and let you know how I've overcome that and just sorted out a situation I've had this week that I think may be useful to you to know. At the beginning of last week, I started to feel unwell. I developed a cough that was getting worse and worse to the stage where I couldn't speak without breaking into a coughing fit. Now, I'd had this happen in the winter and learned that I'd got a chest infection. And my wife said to me, you really ought to go back to the doctors to see if it's that again and to get some more antibiotics. This I did. And last week I went and saw the doctor, and she said to me that I shouldn't have had a recurrence of it. And so what they'd do is give me another dose of antibiotics, and if I felt that I was unwell, to come back and we would start investigations further. Now, that is something that took me back to when I had my kidney squatter, because they said exactly the same thing, and I know where that ended up. So that little one comment actually started to perpetuate into a bigger mental monster. I found that over the course of the week, the cough was going, but in my mind, I was feeling worse. Something very small started, and it developed and it developed and it developed and got bigger and bigger and bigger until my mind was going through all sorts of scenarios. Now, I've had this before. I've got to tell you, I really don't like it because it starts to take over your mind and there's nothing else you can think about. Now, I'm not a psychologist or anyone with any medical influence or knowledge even. I've just found out over the times that have gone things that have worked for me. What I knew was that over the weekend I started to build up this monster that was starting to take over my life. And it got to the stage where I woke up one morning about 3 o'clock and laid in bed thinking of what possibly could be the worst thing that could happen to me. I'm sure you've been there yourself. As it went on, I just felt worse and worse and worse. And the mental monster got bigger and bigger and bigger. And in the end, I had to make a decision as to what I was going to do about it. And so here's what I decided to do. For a while now, I've realised that what happens is that we worry about things, and for a period of time it goes on. It could last a day or two, it could last a week. But at the end of that time, what normally happens is that I realise nothing is going to change if I think like that, and I need to call it a day and start to work on something else. And so what I've started doing, when I realise that I'm getting overtaken by a problem, say to myself, right, I'm going to give myself until the end of the day to wallow in this pity party that I'm having. And then after that, I'm going to put it to bed and get on with my life. And so what I tend to do in that period of time is to think about that worst case scenario. Think what could happen, find out, blame myself for all what's going on, do this, do that, do the other, and keep on chucking it at myself, knowing that this is going to come to an end very soon. And so with my illness thing, I thought to myself, is this my fault? Have I done something that I shouldn't have done that's made this worse? Is there anything I could do to be making it better? And why me? Why is it always me? Why this? Why that? And it was one of those things that you can chuck everything at yourself. It even got to the stage where me and my wife had a chat about this. I'm getting to the age where I'm nearly 64, a couple of months. It started me to thinking that if I'm going to be ill now, what's going to happen in the years to come? We've never had this conversation before, but we did. And we talked about what could happen. Then I went away and thought about it and thought about how bad it could be and this and that. Did I have enough emergency money put by? Should I need it? Do we have enough things in place to make us secure? But I chucked it all on and I felt pretty awful. But I knew this was just a game. And so I gave myself to the end of the day. And then at the end of the day, I went, right, that's it, we're done. I cleared everything out. I beat myself up as much as I could. I chucked all the negative at me that I could and got it out of the way. What I did on that day could have spread over 2 or 3 days. I knew I'd have got there in the end and been thinking about it. So I decided to get it over and done then. Once I'd done that, I freed myself up. You see, you don't have to keep on worrying about things and you don't have to keep on building mental monsters. I still did it. But what I try to do now is condense that into a smaller period of time so that you can get on with doing what you want to do and living your life. There are lots of things in this life that will stand in your way, that will make you think the worst. It's your job to make sure it doesn't overcome you. The way I do it works for me because I set the goal of saying, right, you do your worst until such a time. And then when that time comes, it's done. That's all we're going to do about it. And then I'm moving on. Now, I'm not saying this is going to work for you. All I'm saying is it works for me. It's something that I've come up with that has made a difference in my life because I can be an overthinker. I'm definitely one of those who thinks far too much. And by doing that, I've condensed time, if you like. Instead of being miserable for days and weeks and making that matter worse, I get it over with. And that seems to do it for me. And the only reason I know it does it for me is because over the years I've been an innate worrier. I've let things get me down for far too long. If you've got any comments to make about this, if you'd ever tried anything like this yourself, please let me know down below. I'd be really interested in hearing your thoughts. The fact of the matter is, you deserve to have a good life. We know we get worries. We know we get strifes. It's how we handle them that matters. And I'll tell you now, making a game of it, although it sounds silly from the outside, once you start thinking of it in that way, lots of the problems do go away. Obviously, if it's something that actually is a problem and a real one, then you need to take it seriously and move on and find out how you can stop it. But like I said earlier, for most of us, our worries never come to pass. If you'd like to click up there, I'm going to tell you about another time when basically I'd had enough and knew I needed to change things. I'll see you next time.